Hey, welcome back to another episode of Keep Standing. Listen, before we get started, if you're a frequent watcher or listener, you already know what I'm going to say right here. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, especially if this content's being a blessing to you. Let's help share it with others and encourage them. But man, you're going to love today's show. I am so excited. I get to have a good friend, and I think one of the most important for me figures in sports history. And I don't know if I should say sports history. That might be a little dated. But he is a former NFL Pro Bowler. He's a dominant linebacker, one of the most fiercest competitors you'll ever meet. He's also played in a Super Bowl and coached in a Super Bowl. He's also a respected coach who's helped to shape players across the league, known for his intensity on the field. And I'm excited to welcome my brother, Bryan Cox.
Appreciate it, Paz.
And I, lately it's been this theme I ought to always tell people, and this may be also one of my golf coaches as well. Since my early, he plays golf every day that ends in Y.
That's right. As long as it don't rain, I'm probably playing.
Yeah. Man, I'm grateful to have you. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about. We have been friends now for a couple years, and one day happened to find out that you were sitting in the congregation, and then we quickly became friends. Here's the thing, and you know what I'm going to say, is that the first time we ever hung out, and we're sitting there midway through the conversation, I look up at my wife and I go, this is not the dude who I know from back in the day, watching number 51 play linebacker, watching your work, man. This is not the same guy. He's just like a different dude.
The way I answer that question to people is, if you're playing pro football, you got to be a little bit off, number one. And number two, is not a game, it's your profession, it's your job. And so it's man eat man world. And my family's going to eat before your family eats. And so I played that way because it was personal to me. It was my family at stake. It was somebody coming to take something from my family. And when I'm away, Joe Green taught me this. It's like when you're away, you have to be able to turn the switch off. Yeah. And I could turn the switch off. When I'm around my family, when I'm at church, when I'm around friends, I could be just really who I am. The football thing or football personality was something that, it's not natural for 17 weeks to run into people. You gotta make some stuff up, and it became personal that like you were trying to take from my family. And so that's why you saw me play the way I played.
Was there a different space that you had to go to on game day in your mind, and what was that space like?
The space was like, I own the field and I'm just allowing you to play on it. And so you had to come up with this machismo, this bigger than life personality, like, I own this field. I'm just going to let you play on it for the next 3 hours. And so that mind, it takes you to a place where you're willing to do anything to protect your family because you made up these scenarios in your mind that people were coming to do harm to your family.
Right.
And so I don't know a man that wouldn't do that for his family.
Yeah. So now the game's over. How do you manage that? I mean, is it just like, all right, cut the switch off, go get in the car, hey to the fam?
It wasn't necessarily easy, but the thing that you have to do as a player is you have to look at your end game before the end comes. So, other words, before you retire, you have to have what you're going to do next. And for me, fortunately, I had a broadcasting degree. I went to work for ESPN right out of retirement, and then I went to Fox to work. And I think also you have to have family around you and a wife that understands and can help you navigate those waters. And my wife, as you know, Kim is great, and she helped me navigate those waters.
Yeah, yeah. She helps a lot of groups and people navigate a whole lot. Listen, you know, to get to your level, you know, again, I watched so much of your career, not knowing that one day we would be friends, but to do what you do, as long as you did it, and to that level, it took a whole lot of discipline. It took. Is it? Am I safe to say that there was a major level of discipline to be consistent and to have the longevity you've had?
But let's start from the beginning. I think that I was chosen to be a football player. And I say that because when you hear my story, you'll understand, okay? I grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois, the East St. Louis Flyers. I wasn't the 22 best players, top 22 best players on my team. My junior year, I weighed 185 pounds. I was 6'3". So all the recruiters would come in there because we got the best players in the state. Nobody could beat us. And they turned the grades. I had the grades. 22 of the better players don't have the grades. Yeah. So going into my senior year, I'm still not a starter. I'm a backup in high school on my high school team. But that taught me to fight because I had to fight to play. I never lost a game in high school. We won three straight championships because in Illinois, you start high school in the 10th grade, not the 9th grade. So 10th, 11th, 12th, I never lost a game, undefeated. And so I think those humble beginnings made me fight and scratch and claw for what I thought. So now I go to college. I go to Western Illinois, which is a FCS school, small school, 1AA school, and I started to play well. So after my junior year, people were recruiting me, pro teams, to come out. And I didn't come out. I got an extra year because I was Prop 48 going into college, which meant I could practice, but I couldn't play with the team. Okay. Because the grades, I didn't qualify because my SAT score wasn't high enough. My GPA and everything else was good. So the first stage is I beat all those kids out in high school because I had grades and they didn't. Second issue was I didn't qualify. I was a non-qualifier, so I had to sit out my freshman year. So anyway, I got my next year back. I was married at 21. I had 2 kids in college. So I'm living below the poverty line. And so
way before NILs.
Way before NILs. Yeah. So when I finished my senior year of college, I got drafted in the 5th round by the Miami Dolphins. I immediately moved to Miami. Me and my wife, my 2 kids, we moved to Miami. All the rest of the rookies, they went back to school, they went back home, wherever they were. I said, I got one shot. I say getting drafted, the easy part. I'm going to make this team. I ain't going back home. I'm not going back to the ghetto. And so that started the process of what you saw in the end and how you saw me play. Like, it wasn't always gold. I was a rags to riches story. So I had to battle and scratch. And so to me, it was fighting not to go back to the ghetto. I wasn't going back to East St. Louis. And so that's how you saw me play. That's how you saw some of the stuff. It was like, it was easy to make up in my mind at the beginning because it was like, I'm not going back to that. And so that's my story.
Man, it's somebody just held up a magnifying glass for me that helped me see a whole lot better what made Bryan Cox.
Yeah.
You know, and the way that you played that I mean, we've been friends all this time, and that really put a lot in perspective. Now, here's something for some young person. Imagine that Bryan Cox was not a starter on varsity going into his senior year in high school.
Right.
Don't give up. There's the message. So to get there, you're fighting and clawing, but there's also some habits you had to develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things.
Well, the biggest thing for me is I did the things I was supposed to. I hated school. I only went because I played football. I tried to leave 3 times to go to the Marines, and my mom came up to college. My coach would call my mom each time, and she'd come up and be like, "You never quit anything you ever started."
Yeah, yeah.
And that kept sticking out to me. But the hard thing was, as I said, I was in college. I was married with 2 kids living below the poverty line. You own football scholarships, so you couldn't work at the time. I couldn't get a job. And so my wife at the time was working at the grocery store. And so it was like, I can't get ahead. Like, I'll go to the military. I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to do something. Mm-hmm. I'm not going back to poverty. Mm-hmm. That's the fight.
Yeah.
Like, above all, I'm not going back there. And so whatever it took, I was willing to do. But my mom, she would just come up and be like, "You're not leaving. You're not going to no military. You're not doing it." "Yes, ma'am." And then she'd go back home. She'd take a day off work and drive up there and, again, "You're not going to the military." "Yes, ma'am." Yeah. I tried. I was going to do whatever it took to be successful. I wasn't going to allow my family to not have.
Yeah. What is the percentage of athletes on the field that have that mentality? I mean, you suspect that there are some who come and feel like, hey, I'm supposed to be here. Y'all lucky to have me because of my skill level. But there are others who are fighting and clawing and like there's something bigger driving them. Is there a percentage?
I would say there are fewer players now that have that drive. Uh-huh. Because now everybody looks at themselves as a brand. I didn't care about a brand. I cared about my family, and this is how we're gonna eat. Like, you look at players in every generation, right? There are players that want to be great in every generation. And the older you get, the more you say, these kids today, it's not the kids. Because how do you define greatness? Like, you could look at players right now in the NFL that could play in any generation. Just as you can look at players that played in our generation that could play in any generation. Greatness is great, regardless of what category or what time frame it was. Greatness is great. You can't take away from greatness.
Yeah. I've asked you this before, and if I was talking to some other player and say, "Hey man, who was the best player you ever played with?" They might say Bryan Cox. But asking you, who would you say was like the greatest player you played with, and what made them so great?
I'm gonna give you 5 names.
Okay.
I didn't play with the Jim Browns and some of those guys again in that area that was great. In my generation, there would have been 5 people that I would have bought tickets to go see play. First would have been Dan Marino, who I happened to be teammates and got a up close and personal view of what he could do. Dan had no Super Bowls, but he's the best quarterback I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. Like, we lost a lot of games 35-28, 42-35, and I played defense. He had no 1,000-yard rusher. He had no defense. He carried that team. Like, if you had a chance to go to the playoffs and you had a chance to go to the Super Bowl, would you want Dan Marino, Tom Brady, name any other quarterback? I'm taking Dan Marino.
Wow.
It ain't even close.
Wow.
Barry Sanders is the best running back I ever seen with my own 2 eyes. Barry Sanders, when I was playing for the Chicago Bears, he made me miss 2 times on one play, and I got an assisted tackle the 3rd time he came around. You couldn't tackle him. His eyes rolled around his head like slot machine. Like, it was special. He was special. The third person that I would say would be Deion Sanders. Deion was as great as he wanted to be. Like, you didn't see a competitor like him at that position. He wasn't the most physical guy in the world, but he set quarterbacks up so much. He made them think that he was beat, and then he'd go and intercept and run it back for a touchdown. Like, he was special. The next one I would say would be Derek Thomas. Played with the Kansas City Chiefs, God rest his soul. he happened to be a friend of mine, but he was one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. And his father was a Tuskegee Airman, and he became friends with me when I was in St. Louis. He died leaving Kansas City, like rushing to the airport to catch a flight to come to St. Louis to watch the Rams play, and he died in a car accident. But he was one of the most gifted people you ever saw. He could run 4.4. He had 8 sacks in the Monday night game one time. He had 8 sacks by himself, like gifted, special. And then probably the last person I'm gonna say that people might not recognize because they play offensive line is you look at Eric Williams, who was he was a dog.
Yeah.
He was a dog, and he went to a black college in the 90s. We came out the same year. He'd make grown men quit. Like they'd say, I don't want to play no more. I ain't playing no more. He was one of the few people that made Reggie White rethink his decision. Maybe he was calling on God or something, but he didn't want none of Eric Williams. Eric Williams was a dog.
Yeah.
So those 5 people during my time that I would say, like, in any generation would be great.
Well, there's what we see on the field, and then there's those habits behind closed doors. What is it that makes them special when the cameras are off?
What do you do when there's nobody watching? That's the thing that a lot of people talk about in football. Like, what are your habits? What are your study habits? What are your sleep habits? Are you out partying? Now, I was a guy that I partied a lot when I played. When I played, like, when I say party, I don't mean hanging out, doing drugs, doing all that. I just mean me and my crew, we went to somebody's house, and we made it a family thing, especially in Miami. Most of the time, it was at my house. You bring your wife, you bring your kids. The men would go in the room. We'd watch film. We'd study. The wives would be out. The kids would be in the pool. The wives would be out having conversations. We'd make it a family thing. Very rarely did you see one of us if you didn't see 5 of us. And we studied together. We stayed out of trouble that way. We didn't do anything. Now, in the off season, it was a little wild. So we hung out and, we did all that stuff. But when it was in season, like, we got up for training. We got up to do the things that we were supposed to do. We weren't doing any of the wrong things. We were doing all the right things. And it led to success for the most part. I think with the Dolphins, we went to 3 AFC championship games, but we could never beat the Bills. That's when they lost 4 in a row. We could never beat the Bills. So they beat us, I think, 2 or 3 other times that they went to the 4 straight Super Bowls.
That's like the 90, 94 kind of?
That was 91 through 95 during that time frame.
Yeah. Well, so I've asked you about players, and you've also been a player and a coach. How about on the coaching side? I know most people who know Bryan Cox will probably know there's one name he's going to say, but what are the great coaches?
Well, I played for 3 Hall of Famers. I played for Don Shula, Bill Parcells, and Bill Belichick. 3 Hall of Fame coaches. Belichick and Parcells are quite the same. Couldn't be more different than Shula. And leadership skills, leadership style was different between Shula and Parcells and Belichick, but all great, all Hall of Fame. Like Don Shula was the kind of guy that would yell at you, scream at you, and then tell you at the end of the conversation, I love you, we got to get a win this week, give you a hug, let's go. Parcells was the kind of guy that led out of fear.
Yeah.
So he'd come in the room one time and he'd say, okay, we got 3 groups of people in this room. We got people that are safe. Some of you guys, you safe. But we got people that, you week to week, and we got people that are day to day. If you do good today, you can come back tomorrow. If you don't do good today, then you're probably not coming back tomorrow. And the people that are week to week, if you do good this week, I'll give you a chance next week. If you don't, I'm replacing you. And that was him and Belichick had the same philosophy. Like everything, not everything, but most things that Belichick did winning all these Super Bowls, he learned under Parcells. Because it was, you saw it, he just revolutionized it.
Yeah.
But they coached out of fear. And like for me, it never really bothered me because if you did your job, they didn't bother you. It's only the people that didn't do the right thing. It was only the people that they had to overcorrect all the time that they had issue with, and I wasn't one of those people.
Yeah. You got a favorite Belichick story? I watched you did some commentary on the ESPN special about
30 for 30.
the 30 for 30. I loved it, by the way. But you got a special?
A couple, probably the biggest one. Here, I'm gonna give you one about me. When Belichick quit for the Jets on the first day he had the job, he went down on a trip. I don't want this damn job. He quits and he goes to New England. Well, that previous year I broke my leg in New York when Belichick was the coordinator, and so when he became the head coach, he wanted to change the mindset of New England. So he brings me over, and he gets me over. My leg is barely healing, and training camp's about to start in July. So I go to training camp, and we start the season. We play the Rams in November, around Thanksgiving. And he says to me on Monday, "Cox, you're not dressing this week. You're not playing." I go nuts. He said, "Okay, tell me who can you cover on the Rams team. Tell me who you can run with on the Rams team." Nobody. Okay, I ain't playing. So I'm mad. So they beat us, and that was the last game we lost for the year. We go to the Super Bowl to play the Rams in New Orleans. And so I'm thinking he's going to come and tell me the same thing. To his credit, he allowed me to dress for the Super Bowl, and he didn't want me to play in the game. He just wanted me to dress. I found out later. But it was his way of thanking me for coming, even though I broke my leg again and missed most of the season. But that was his way of giving me a thanks or throwing me a bone for being there. So he had some good characteristics to him. A lot of people say he's mean and he's a bunch of different things. And he's some of those things, you know. But at the end of the day, he's a good guy. Good coach, great coach.
Well, we're on a roll now. I might as well ask you about Parcells.
Parcells, let me tell you something about Parcells. There are people that hate him, but I love him like a father. Old white man, in my end of my career, I'm trying to retire. I'm mad I just got cut by the Bears. I'm trying to retire. And an old white man will try his very best to find common ground. And he would always find a person or a story that you knew that he knew that he could tie you together so that he can become friends. When I got cut by the Chicago Bears, he was at the New York Jets as the head coach. He called me. I was at my mom's house in East St. Louis. And he said, "I got $1 million. Won't you come and play for me? I just need you to be a backup." I said, "Man, the hell with football. I quit. I'm 285 pounds. I'm playing softball, drinking beer every day. I'm on the softball circuit." and to tell you a little bit about him was he knew as a competitor that I didn't want to retire playing for the worst team in football. He was like, "You gonna retire? You thinking about retiring, and you just left the worst team in football. That's how you gonna leave your legacy playing for them." So he was digging at me, knowing that would be the thing that would get me to be like, "Okay, I'll show you how I come back and play." But he and I have a really good relationship right now. He's like a father figure to me. Whenever I have a tough decision to make, I always seek his advice. Like, he is. People are people.
Yeah.
And he is just a good man. And I appreciate him so much. So, like, I can call him today. I can call him now. He'll answer the phone. And if he don't answer the phone, he'll call me back because he might be taking a nap.
Yeah.
He's 86 now.
Wow.
So he gets up early in the morning, he works out, and then he goes play golf, and then he takes the afternoon nap, and then he go to the horse races in Saratoga, or this time of year he's in Jupiter. I don't think he hasn't started his trek back to Saratoga yet.
So I'm sure you had to take some of what you learned from a Belichick and a Parcells and a Shula and apply it to now this next stage, and we'll talk more about that later. But what makes a great coach?
Just a few characteristics: patience, tolerance, intelligence, knowing the psychology of a player, knowing people, being able to look a man in his eye and tell him something that he may not like to hear. Like you can't be afraid to tell a guy the truth. I had a coach say to me one time, and I think is really important: I'd rather have you hate me now than to see you 20 years from now and you say, I can't stand this man, he lied to me, or he said this. I'd rather you hate me now and respect me later in life when we see each other if I was able to tell you the honest truth. And I think that's what you look for in a coach. If you're a player, you want people to tell you the honest, brutal truth. And I may not be able to handle it at this moment. It may make me say some stuff that I may regret in the future, but at least I know where you stand and I can respect you as a man for it. And I think that's what you look for as a coach, because I don't follow you because you're the coach. You got to have some leadership skills.
Yeah.
And if you're a great leader, the chances are you've been a great follower.
Yeah.
You know, because if you lead and you out front, sometimes the leader's in the back. Like you look at the wolf pack, the leader's in the back. He ain't in the front. He let the older people go in the front so he can make sure that you go at their pace. He don't put the young, strong dogs up front. The leader, he gets in the back so he can see where the older people traveling at the pace that we want to go. The people in the middle are doing most of the work, you know, and at the end, I'm back here watching it all. I see it all, you know, and I think sometimes we a lot of times in athletics, we're either military or we're animal packs, because you can learn most from those groups.
Yeah. Kind of leader eats last kind of principle.
Yes.
You know. So we're talking about leader and leadership. Is leadership something you have to be born with, or can it be something you can be taught?
Well, me and my wife had this conversation and this argument sometimes. I believe that leadership, you have to be born. And there are a few leaders that have been born into the world that you could just call out, the Martin Luther Kings and those sort. But we know that the military can train you and get leadership skills out of you. They can enhance your leadership. I think you can enhance a lot of people's leadership, but the leaders that are born, they stand out in the crowd. Like you could, throughout the history of time, you can name the people that have been leaders that have led, whether it's been good or bad. You can look at the White House now. You can look at, you know, some of the drug dealers in the world that have been kingpins, the Chapos and those people. They're all kind of leaders. But when you talk about the top of the crops of the Martin Luther King, the Nelson Mandelas, when you talk about those people are born to do that. You know, they're not enhanced or made to do that. They were born for those positions, I believe. And my wife said, no, they were enhanced. They started out like this. And then, but you're born to do something. Like I was born to be a football player. I really believe that. Like that's my calling. And so it's my ministry. So when I work with young players to try to get them to understand, that's my calling. So like I believe that some are born But there's definitely, when you look at the military, they enhance leadership of men and women every day.
Yeah. Wow. So the last question, I want to ask this because I love high school sports, and I'm really involved with the kids in our community, and there's some young person, some high school athlete watching and listening to Bryan Cox, and they want to aspire to get to where you are. What's that one thing you tell them? Do this right now.
Make sure that you check the boxes school-wise, because that's going to be the first thing to eliminate you. If you don't have the grades, you ain't going nowhere. You could be great. If you don't have grades, you are either going nowhere or to junior college. So get your grades. Make it a priority. The next thing I'll say is have fun, because you could have never told me in a million years that I'd be in the NFL my sophomore year in high school. My senior year in high school, I had my doubts, but I knew I was going to be good at something. I knew I was going to be something. Like, I was not going to be successful. And then I would say, thirdly, don't think that you're going to be a pro player. There's one in a million. Have fun. Enjoy life. Enjoy hanging out with your friends. Do the right thing. What are you doing when nobody's looking? If you do those things, you set yourself up to be successful at something. But the thing that I would probably say more than anything is appreciate your circumstance. Appreciate your circumstance, because I grew up in a rough environment, but I didn't realize it until much later that that's what made me. Appreciate your circumstance.
Man, this is so rich, bro. It's so rich. Oh my gosh. I hope that there's somebody listening who can apply that right now, and to have fun, enjoy, appreciate your circumstances. Man. Listen, we got to run this back one more time. Listen, I'm so grateful again for you. If people are trying to find Bryan Cox, want to reach out, how can they do it?
Bryan Cox Sr. at Instagram. I don't know.
Bryan Cox Sr.
Instagram. I don't know.
He's on there. He is on there. I seen him. Yeah. Listen, I'm so grateful to have you, and to each of you, thanks so much for being a part of this conversation. We're going to run it back and do it again, so I hope you'll join us one more time. And until next time, keep standing.